and a fish took me and a gun under the water, ripped my mask off from my face, and it ripped my snorkel from my mouth. And now I can't see anything, and now I have to breathe. All the kelps are around my body. Like, I probably just have to give up. Otherwise, I'm gonna really die. My name is Mitsuki Hara. I'm from Japan, and now I'm a spearfisher in California.
And yeah, so you're from Japan, you were born there? Or?
I was born there. I was there until 15, 16. Then I went to England for the high school.
Okay.
Then I went back to Japan after the high school was done. Then I moved to Ireland after that as a horse trainer. I did the working holiday for a year. And I worked as a waitress, horse trainer, bartender. I did everything that I can do with my skills.
Awesome. So what was it like growing up in Japan?
Well, my family it's all medical related. My father's side, mom's side, they're all medical, doctors. So there was a lot about how to take care of life very responsibly.
Okay.
And my dad had a boat since when I was young. So I don't know when my first time I was, when I did a catch and cook, but probably when I was a baby.
Okay.
So he was teaching me how to catch fish and take care of it responsibly. Then, cook with it and then share it with friends and family.
Awesome. So you've been around the water then since from a young age.
A lot, yes. And my dad eventually became a doctor for like a little island, like really deserted island. Only like less than 100 people who lives on that island, and he was a doctor. He's kind of retiring, but before he retired, he was like doing an easy doctor job on the island. And I get to live with my dad on that like island, nothing else other than just going fishing with the local people. And I was hanging out with local people on that island for a couple months. It was really great.
Wow, what an incredible experience.
Yeah.
So from a young age, you've been around the water and around fish and like eating it right from the source.
Yes, pretty much.
Okay, awesome. So you said you moved when you were like 16?
Yeah.
Had you spent any time like diving up to that point, or was it?
Diving, I wasn't that familiar until when I was 21, but I was in the swimming school, and then I don't remember, but I have a picture that I was like maybe like 2, 3 years old, and then someone was like just like pushing me under the water. So probably I was kind of familiar under the water, but at some point I had experience like nearly drown. I didn't drown, but like I was kind of close to drown, and it traumatized me, and that got me out of the water until when I was 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what brought you to Scotland, Ireland?
England. Ireland.
Okay.
Ireland is just, I wanted to go back to Europe because I really like to interact with different cultures, and then I wanted to improve my English communication ability better too. So like all I wanted to do when I was thinking to go back to England was just want to go back to somewhere similar to, not England, sorry, Ireland. I was all thinking about like I just want to go back to somewhere similar to England. It was right next to England, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, what was that like? Like had you traveled much, before that point, or?
My first time going to abroad was probably when I was 11. I was a not professional, but I was riding horses a lot, and my instructor was Olympians, and we were in this team that we're gonna grow a competitive horse rider since when they were young. So I was riding horses every day, and Germany was one of the most the top country for the horse riding. So that was the country that I've been for the first time. But until went to Germany, then went to Ireland when I was 16. For that 5 years, I didn't go any other countries. I didn't really get the opportunity.
Okay. And yeah, what was there any culture shock, or like what was the experience like once you went there? Or, like how would you describe the place?
Yeah, culture shock in a good way for sure. Like if I didn't go to England when I was 16, probably my life would be very different because my family got really difficult at some point, like 12, 13, 14, and then they divorced when I was 15 and custody and this and that. And I started to get really frustrated when I was in Japan. Then the main reason that I went to England was kind of just like, run away from all that. And I thought I'm doing something bad because I say like run away, kind of negative word. But when I actually ran away to England, it's just like my life, like the world that I live is opened up so much that the norm or just like expectations I used to living is not really a thing when you go to a different place. So if you don't feel comfortable at one place, then maybe it's a chance, like not a chance, sorry, choice to go to a different place that people see you as, good person or unique person. Yeah.
Cool. And then what exactly were you doing, or what was your role, or what was your fascination in like the equestrian world with the horses and?
It's so different from any other sports because you have to negotiate with the animal that are bigger than you, and then people like me especially, like they're probably like 20 times stronger than me. So there's no way I can treat, them with my muscle, like I can force them to do anything. I just can't. So I have to negotiate them. I have to ask them, is it gonna be okay if I do this? Are you more comfortable? So it's just like a whole different, you have to communicate with them without using your language, like with your body. And then it's just, I really like that connection with animal and then do things together with them and then do it well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have any did you ever get hurt doing it or?
I fall off from horses a lot because I was so small, and I was actually really good. So my instructor put me on a horse that never been ridden. So I was like kind of being, like doing the rodeo. It's not really a rodeo. It's better than that. But horses are freaking out, and it's really like it made me fall off a lot, and I didn't break anywhere. Well, I broke my toe a lot because they step on. My identical twin sister though, she broke her upper jaw because we all do short jumping that you have to jump over the high obstacles. And one of them, they jump over, it was fine, but the rider and the horse timing kind of like didn't match well. So when the horse neck was raised, my sister's face was down, and then their muscle is so hard when they're like contracting. And then that muscle strength just literally crushed her upper jaw. And then she came back with like something wrong with her upper lip because it's concaved. It's like something wrong with her face.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's bad. Okay, so then, so what was the next phase then after that? Like, how old were you?
I was riding horses until really recently, until I went to UC San Diego.
Okay.
So horses were the important thing for a long time. But when I was working as a horse trainer in England while I was going high school, I kind of started to realize maybe horse trainer is not a practical job or realistic job to live by myself because it's really, really like poorly paid job. So like started thinking, but still wanted to work as a horse rider, like see how much I can go. But I started seeing horses as something industrial rather than my soulmates since I started to get paid as a horse trainer and I didn't really feel good about it. So maybe that was like about 20, I think it's 20, I decided to go back to university, change my career or like go back to horseback riding world as, hobby rather than just a job. But it takes time,
Yeah. How old are you?
That time I was 19,
Okay.
19, 20, around that. In Ireland, I decided.
Okay. And so then, how did you find yourself in the States or what? Yeah.
College.
Okay.
So the university and the college system in Europe and the United States are a little different. And I was trying to figure out the way that I can go the cheapest possible and the fastest possible. And England, Ireland, it's just the system-wise. If I want to graduate university, it was gonna take at least 6 years. By United States, you guys have a community college, 2 years, and then you can do transfer. That's a very unique United States. And then go to the third year of university and do another 2 years. Moreover that, community college is way cheaper than just going university for 4 years straight. And if you study hard enough, you can shorten that up.
Yeah.
So I was pretty confident I can just put myself into it. I can graduate at least 4 years or like, possibly less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you know what you wanted to do, or what did you study, or?
I always liked biology because all my family is a medical field, and my dad talked about it a lot, my mom talked about it a lot, and I was just like purely interested in biology, so I was studying biology the whole time.
Okay. And so then, yeah, you said you went to UC
San Diego.
San Diego.
Here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Nice.
So I lived in San Diego for like 2 years and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been here for 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I joined Just Get Wet when I just started to freediving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so talk about that. So, like, at what point when you came out here, yeah, when did you start getting in the water? Why did you do this? Like,
Well, so I didn't really feel comfortable going to the water that are deeper than my height for a long, long time. But when I was 21, I got a chance to go to Malta, and it's clear water, and I can really see fish swimming under the water, but can't really see it clearly because it's above the water. So like, I got a chance to safely get into the water, flat, so clear, beautiful. It's nothing that makes me feel scared. So I got this like a kid's bubbles on the arms, and then like the donut thingy, and then everything was like perfect. I feel safe getting into the water. I see more beautiful stuff under the water. Now I gotta get close to it. Then I found this buoy attached to a chain and a chain attached to the floor. So I was like, oh, that looked like a safe place to try to go dive. So I get there and then did this, I don't know how it's called.
Free immersion or
Yeah, free immersion, yeah. And then for the first time in my life, and I got to the bottom way easier than I thought. Way easier. It was way easier than I thought. And it was a lot less scary than I used to think it is gonna be. And I saw fish at their eye level in their natural ecosystem, and they're so curious with me and like looking at me this way and I'm going that way. Or it's like just, I love biology so much, and then this planet is covered by water for 70% of it, but because I was scared of something that I wasn't actually scared of, I was avoiding this 70% of this like whole biosphere. I was like, I gotta get into this, and I started. As soon as I come back to the United States, just started getting into this Facebook group, like, Instagram group, looking at the YouTube, how it's, the step to get into spearfishing, freediving, and one of the group that I found was you guys. I think I was in San Diego Freedivers Facebook group, and one of them recommended me to go to the Just Get Wet guys, because you guys do freediving and snorkeling at the Carrock Park at that point.
Yeah.
And I've never even like freedove before, so like, okay, let's get into not scuba, snorkeling. And then I went to the park with you guys, and we went to a snorkeling at the Carrock Park. I think we dove down south. We were swimming to the south, and I saw like giant calicos, and then people showed me, oh, this is lobsters. These guys has to be, 3¼ inch on this place, and the calico, these guys are small, but there's a rule, like if it's like at least 14 inch, you can shoot them. I was like literally one of these people that you guys are trying to educate. Yeah, and it just like, it was perfect. I was feeling safe because I know you are very experienced, so I won't die. And you're giving me like a whole lectures in natures underwater. So it just like provoked my curiosity more and more.
Incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it seemed like, in one incident you had kind of a traumatic experience that kind of kept you out of the water, and then
Yeah.
in one other experience you were able to kind of overcome that a little bit.
Yeah. But it's not only that. I think there was a little, like many reasons came to me at the same time, happening to me at the same time, and I just couldn't resist to
Okay.
get into the water. At the time, I was taking a genetic class. I did a lot of genetic class in UC San Diego, and then one of the professors was talking about this one newly found like gene adaptation in Indonesian people. They're like divers for generations and generations. They actually have a genetic mutation to adapt to freediving. Their spleens are bigger and everything. I was like, oh my goodness, like diving is awesome. Like it can like physically improve people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So then I'm curious, that one time you said in Malta where you pulled down the float or the chain.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So how deep was that?
I think that was 10 feet,
Okay,
less than
okay.
15 feet.
And were you equalizing? Like, did you know how to equalize at that point, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Surprisingly, I heard about equalization before I go down from my friend. I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
And I was very lucky. I've never really had the problem with equalization. I've had problems, like, I've never heard doing equalization, but I skipped because first couple of years I was so excited. Sometimes I see fish, I don't equalize and dive down, and I come up and then my nose was bleeding.
Okay.
I had that couple times, but I've never actually had equalizing before, so that's
Okay.
a lucky part.
Cool. So equalization is never something that's been difficult for you. It's always just been sometimes you just forget to do it.
Yeah, sometimes I
Okay.
forget.
Okay.
Most of the time I'm fine. When I'm lobster diving, just going up and down so often and it's shallow, I sometimes don't even have to use my hand. Like I can
Okay,
do.
you can figure out how to do hands
Yeah,
free. Cool.
yeah.
Awesome. So then you started. You did some snorkeling class, some weekend snorkeling stuff.
Mhm.
You took the class too.
FII, I took a FII
Okay.
class. Yeah.
Nice. And who'd you take that with?
Ryan Keeney.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was that here?
It was in Catalina.
Oh, Catalina. Nice.
Mhm. It was
So tell me
beautiful.
about that. How was that?
It was. So at that point, I already could dive 60 feet. It was no problem. So to me, getting to the depths wasn't a problem, but I wanted to learn more about safety. So a lot of people, they knew I can dive okay, but they told me a lot of things like, oh, when I'm doing buddy dive with you, Mitsuki, I'm basically trusting you to save me too. So I want you to have experience practicing safeties or recovering people from the bottom or 30 feet, 40 feet. And I talk about it, like that's my main focus for the class, for the FII. And then he was very supportive to really give me opportunity. He pretended to be dead and then trying to recover him or get his consciousness back, do the mask and then blow into the eyes.
Yeah.
That was very valuable experience for
Cool.
sure.
So then, yeah, I know there's a lot of spearfishers who are just like, I can dive to these depths, no problem.
Mhm.
Like, I don't need to take the class. So do you feel like the class was worth it? Like you got something?
It definitely was it,
Yeah.
because now I can. This is just like proper evidence that people that I dive with can trust me. So I know there's a lot of people who don't take FII or PFI and then can dive deep, and I can trust them too. But just it was, I take new people out too every once in a while. It's just for these people, like for my body to feel a little more comfortable diving with me. It was for myself too, but it was worth it in terms of like I have something like people can see it and trust me better.
Cool. And have you taken any other classes or?
No, just
okay.
FII.
Cool.
Yeah.
So then, at what point, tell me a little bit about when you started actually hunting out here.
Hunting out here, I started from lobster diving.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. I started from La Jolla. I couldn't catch anything for a year for sure, but it was just like everything that I see under the water at night or during the day was so fascinating. And then these people who took me out are very like, very sharing. I really love that sense of sharing. So when I catch now, then I do share my catch to my friends too. But it was just, I wasn't really frustrated that I couldn't catch anything for a year. I couldn't shoot anything for a long time too. But just like, I try to follow these good people as much as possible. And the first year, it's just copying. Dive with good people, just ask everybody to go dive with. And then, like, I don't push myself. So, like, you don't really have to babysit me. I'm gonna just follow you, and then can I just learn how you do? So, I followed, I don't know if I should put the name out, but like, many people, a lot of people, I followed around a lot of people. And I copied their style, and then trying to understand why they do that, the way they do it, and trying to understand that, copy that, and then when I started seeing what they see under the water, copying them, then modify it in my way a little by little so that I can feel, more comfortable under the water.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think it's, so it doesn't sound like a lot of times people don't want to detract from their own diving to like teach you, but there's still so much you can learn from just watching and mimicking.
I think underwater is so difficult to teach people because you're wearing wetsuits, and then not students, like people who want to teach, they can't really hear you well because they're like around the water, and maybe you're not really speaking well because the mask is covering your nose. So I think the best way, of course, communication is important, but to me, it was very more accurate to see them doing what they do without being bothered. So that was my way to learn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And then what were some big landmark moments for you, or like, was it fish, or was it just experience, or things that really stick out in your memory when you were first starting spearfishing?
First starting, the moment. Now I don't think it's a good moment, but I was diving like 5 feet water, like waves, and 60 feet waves. At one point, so that friend that I was diving with at the time, he was kind of testing me that when I say no, and then I was so new, I didn't know, like, you're not diving 5 feet wave, but like, we went there, and then the first try, I was washed out. So I did another try. It was so hard, but I get it out, and then like, it was definitely not fishing, spearfishing condition.
Yeah.
So we just, swimming around 20 minutes and then come back. But now I think it's like, it's so tough and you shouldn't really do it when you're a newbie. But it kind of makes me feel like I'm glad that I experienced that, so that everything else after that feels way easier. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Probably not like the best thing to do, but you gained a lot of confidence.
I did.
Confidence is a big thing.
Yeah.
In the water,
I think another thing, I used to practice surfing. I can't surf. I'm terrible at surfing. But I used to practice San Francisco, 6 feet wave, 8 feet wave. I don't know why, but the ex-boyfriend at the time didn't stop me from getting into the water in those conditions and just crashing into the water and then being laundry washed under the water, trying to learn how to dive down. I think I learned it in a really hard way, probably.
Yeah, no, it's a good way. It's a good way to again test to how to be calm. In a very stressful situation.
Yeah, that's very important.
Cool. Cool. So then. Yeah, you've been diving for long, and then.
I'm not. This is my 5th year.
Oh, it's your 5th year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm still considered a newbie.
Okay.
I really can't, brag myself like I'm experienced or I'm OG. Like, I'm really not. And then still, I don't dive deep. And then I can't hold my breath that long. I'm just like average diver in SoCal.
So what would you say is like your average depth that you feel comfortable at, and like average breath hold, or?
In California, I never really dive deeper than 50 feet. Like, if you're at the right place, in the right conditions, if you're diving right, you don't have to dive more than 50 feet. Yep.
Nice. And like, yeah, what would you say is like, maybe like average breath hold to like a long breath hold?
It depends on if I'm swimming or if I'm doing speedo. If I'm doing speedo, I just say a minute half, a minute and a 40.
Okay.
But if I'm like swimming through, if there's a lot of surge, then it goes down to about a minute.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I think it's surprising. Like people always say, like you have to stay underwater for 5 minutes and this and that.
The regular, what is that called? Static?
Yeah,
Static.
Yeah.
I can do that at 4 minutes and 30, 4 minutes around that.
Yeah.
But it's not always like that when you're spearfishing. That's why spearfishing and the freedivings are a lot different. But yeah, because I got world records, people think, oh, you're such a good diver. You can dive deep. You can dive for a long time. It's just like, you're best diver in California. Like, I'm just really not. You guys expecting so much, and then like, I'm just really average.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk a little, like when did you start hunting for white sea bass and like?
I was ready for sea bass for a long time, but I didn't see like first 3 years, 2 years. I literally saw my first white sea bass 2 years ago, and I couldn't shoot one. So I still thought that those are just a ghost. It doesn't exist. I didn't catch it, so it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I just saw it, but I think I was just hallucinating or something.
Okay.
But last year, really beginning of the season, I was diving with my husband, and then every time when we go out, he shoot one, and I don't even see one. So like, what am I doing wrong? Like maybe I'm just swimming wrong, or maybe I'm just waiting under the water wrong. And then he really coached me how to dive for white sea bass, and then I was pulling whatever that I learned into the practice in the water as often as possible. Sometimes I was diving 5 days in a row and then not even see anything. But like, even though you don't see anything, you learn something about white sea bass like every time. And then last year, actually, finished taking marine biology, marine microbiology, oceanography. So I was applying everything that I learned in the class under the water and trying to see like how they are behaving differently. And I finally got the first one in a very popular spot. And then since that day, it really, like, I started to get more confident, comfortable finding them, like be ready for them, like how to get ready. You have to be ready for shooting white sea bass the entire time, even though you don't see anything for 5 days, because you never know when it's gonna be in front of you. So, like, I became a better waiter, like stalker, like how to wait for it. I'm like always ready to shoot one, and I think that was very much a key to hunt white sea bass successfully.
Okay. Are you willing to provide, like, tell us about any of your tips, or like what sort of things did you learn, like that you were maybe not doing that you did, or?
Sea bass?
Yeah.
Quiet dive for sure. And then when I'm stalking for them, I really see the temperature, surface temperature, the bottom temperature, and then even the surface temperature depends on the current through the specific kelp forest. It changes. Like some places are really cold, some places are really warm. And then I try to wait them right next to where the current is, or just like go along the current so that I don't have to swim faster than the current. I try to keep in mind whether when I'm wading under the water or just swimming through the kelp, I try not to move faster than the current around me. Like my movement has to be always slower than the current or about the same, because sea bass is very nervous all the time, so they can find something odd movement very easily. So I try not to be the odd movement in the water so that I can find them before they find me. So that's the way that I hide in the water when I'm diving. Other than that, I like seeing a lot of pockets in the kelp forest. When I see pockets, I try to just stick my head to the pockets and then see a whole view. And then my body is under the kelp, not under the kelp, but like kelp cover on the surface. So I'm just hiding there and then waiting for the sea bass to pass by for like 10-15 minutes. And if I see nothing, and I go to the next pocket and I do the same thing.
Okay. And then you were talking about like the temperatures. Like, are you looking for a specific temperature, or what are you looking
Like,
for in the temperatures? Or
I did a little research about these people who spawn sea bass. They from raise sea bass, and then they are very specific about temperatures. So this is how you can get to know about the temperatures. But I don't know, maybe like around 68 is prime. 67, 68, 69 is good. But it just like when the temperature goes really warm, like, sometimes even the same spot, like outside the kelp is 68, but inside the kelp is like 72.
okay.
Then I'd rather stay in the middle of it.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So you're like finding those changes in temperature.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to stay in the middle of the gap
Okay.
so that I can see both sides. And then I feel like that's where the sea bass are making a traffic.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So then, yeah, tell us about the legendary fish.
Was very. It wasn't a murky day. It was murky on the shallow, and then decent visibility farther away, but it's not the perfect visibility. I think the temperature was perfect to me, and I had two divers. One very experienced diver, another one is much newer girl diver, and then three of us got into this spot, very famous. I know a lot of people dives there, and then I had a good report about that specific place. It's like, okay, let's get in. And then we got in. I saw so many sharks, so superfin sharks. To me, I think seeing a lot of superfin shark is a good indication. When I see a lot of them, like, that specific spot is great for the white seabass condition too. So I was like, I'm getting excited. Probably I'm gonna shoot one today, going outside of the cove. And one guy goes to this side, another girl stays in the middle, and I would stay. I can't say that, sorry. So one guy goes this way, girl stays that way, and we should be really buddy diving, but that day the guy just like didn't really want to do buddy diving for the white sea bass. So I decided to stay this one specific spot, making a zigzag and then trying to, decide where exactly to wait for them. And I found this little pocket, as I told you, and I just stick my head in there and then hiding my body and then just swims by. But before I saw that fish, I saw a way bigger white sea bass. I didn't really talk about the part, but probably well bigger than 90 pounds. Like it could be 100 pounds. I'm not joking, because I shot 73 after that, and the one that I saw before that was way bigger than that. And then I took a shot and it didn't penetrate. It did not penetrate. It took my shot for a little while, but it just popped out so easy, and I was heartbroken. But around the spot is like, it's kind of like, I got evidence. The spot that I was looking at is basically a traffic for them. So I decided to stay another 15 minutes in a similar spot, and I found the kelp pocket and just like waiting for them, as I told you before. Then another white sea bass is big enough, like the second biggest one that I saw, and just swimming from this side to directly at me. And then that fish has no idea that I'm there. So as the fish swam to my direction, I swung my gun, like my body was going this way, that way. I swung my gun to the direction when the current was going to the same direction as me. I think that's the only thing that I was really being careful with, that fish, to shoot. Then I shot them. Great. I saw them penetrate. I saw the shaft penetrate and the slip tip engage. Great. But as soon as that, it started taking off so hard because I, couldn't do the kill shot. And it was so strong, it was dragging me through the kelp. And then last year, the kelp bed was so dense, so thick, that it was starting to, like, so much kelp just like starting to pile up in front of my body and the gun, and I couldn't swing my gun or direct my gun to the way of the reel is feeding. So the reel started to feed on the side way, like 90 degrees, and it got stuck. And then like that's how the reel gets stuck. And then once it stuck, and the fish took me and the gun under the water, and it started pulling me through the water, through the kelp. And the same thing happened underwater. All this kelp starting to get stuck on my body, and the fish is still pulling my gun. Oh my goodness. And then one of the kelp ripped my mask off from my face, but I was holding to my mask by biting the snorkel as hard as possible, and it ripped my snorkel from my mouth. And now I can't see anything, and now I have to breathe. All the kelps around my body, dangerous. I gotta let my gun go. So I let my gun go eventually, but right before that, I grabbed the kelps around my body and then tangled around my gun and the reel, so that probably the kelp's gonna give enough a break to stop the fish, and then the fish to get tangled by itself. And then just like trying to do as much as possible until I really have to breathe, and then let it go. I saw it just disappear. I can't even see it well with my mask, but I could still see it. My eyes was open under the water. Just saw it disappear, surface it, and then trying to see it, can't see it. I don't have my mask anymore. So like, now I have two choices. Maybe it just swam away with my gun, or it got stuck. So either way, I have to get my mask and snorkel again. So I run back to the shore, climb up the hill, the cliff. I really ran the cliff, go back to the car, and then get extra snorkel and the mask, and then go back to the water. And when I was trying to swim to the direction where I lost my gun, I saw all the superfin shark going to the same direction. I was like, oh my God, they must be eating my fish by now. I was like, but anyway, like if I don't bring the body, nobody believes me. So like at this point, it doesn't matter if the fish is fully intact, I'm gonna bring the body back. And the gun, I can't lose my gun. So I was literally every dive, I was following the superfin shark. I was swimming with them, and maybe like couple dives, less than 10, I saw the fish under the water, right above the bottom, tangled. So my plan probably worked. The kelp that I tangled around the gun really stopped the fish swimming and then stopped the whole thing. But now then those superfin sharks are biting on my fish tail. I was like, but fish was fully intact. That was great. But it was about to not be intact because the shark was biting my fish tail. So I just swim up to it and I pull my knife and just poking as many as possible and let it go around and then breathe, come back to and then dive, just like as soon as possible, like as efficient as possible, trying to retrieve the fish. And I did. And every time when I go dive down, cut the kelp, bring the fish, the sharks are all around me, so just looking around and then poking them, and then just surface it with it.
That's fucking crazy.
Like,
wow.
it kind of, I don't know.
Because I hadn't heard the story that it was that intense. That's crazy.
I thought that I'm gonna die. Like seriously, when the fish was pulling me under the water and through the kelp, and I can't see, I had to breathe and I had to let the gun go, and then all the kelps around my body. I was like, okay, I lost this game. Like I probably just have to give up. Otherwise, I'm gonna really die, and then let it go. But just I don't know. I think it wasn't like the nature really, helped me out, like to like stop the fish and then get it to me.
Was the fish still pretty alive at this point? Like, because why? I don't understand why the soup fins hadn't really gotten to it. Or they had just gotten the tail, like. Yeah,
it was. Where the thick, not the thick part, thin part. It's the big body and it gets thin and the tail is there. It was biting the thin part of it. So it was like very dense meat, and the fish was fighting.
That's why they couldn't really tear it up. Was that the fish was still able to kind of move around?
The fish was fully alive, and it was fighting off the shark. Great, but it's one shark that is on the tail, and then I just get it out.
Okay. So then, how did you get it to the surface, or how hard was it to get up?
It wasn't really hard to get it on the
Did you brain
surface.
it under the water? at
Yeah,
any point?
yeah.
Okay, so
I
you
brained it first
Okay.
under the water where it's tangled around the kelp,
Mhm.
and then just like, trying to cut as less kelp as
Okay.
possible. Just cut the kelp
Yeah.
and then surface it.
Okay.
But on the way back to the shore was another big effort because I couldn't really go dive down because so many sharks and it was so shallow too at the point. So I put the fish on my back and then lift it up from the surface and then just like crawled it to the surface. I put my gun under my body to, push all the kelps down under the surface and just lift it and then just little by little. And then when I was doing that, and then there was another divers going down the cliff and they were looking at me, and there's a bunch of shore fishers at the point, like 3 or 4. They're all waiting for me at the shore. It's like, what did you just catch? Because the thing that was on my back is as tall as my height. I'm 5'1", and the fish was 5 feet. So it's just like, they're all waiting for me. I was like, oh, wow, what am I gonna say?
And so yeah, your dive buddies were just gone at this point.
The whole time, they didn't even find me. I was having a trouble, but it was good for me because if you want a world record, nobody can touch your shooting line.
Right.
Like they're not allowed to touch your shooting line. They're not allowed to, hold a gun for you. They're not allowed to help, retrieving the fish until you put the fish on your stringer. You have to do all the work by yourself.
No, that's awesome because I'm sure had they been there, you would have called for help. Like, or what do you think? Did you know at the time that maybe this was like a record? Like,
I knew it.
Okay.
Yeah. And 1, I knew it. 2, I thought, I knew all the rules. So, asking for the help doesn't really do anything at that point.
Yeah.
And I knew that was within my capability. And if I just do it, it would be the fastest way possible. So I just did it.
I can't imagine. Was it hard, like once you got the fish to the surface, like to get your gun, and then I'm sure it had taken a decent amount of line. Like, was it hard just to get your gun back to the point where you could continue to move through the water?
It was tangled a lot with a lot of kelp.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of work to just let all the shooting lines back in the reel, like untangle the reel, and then actually the trigger guard and the reel were bent. So like bent it back to just get to the normal shape and then reel it back in. It was a lot of work, but it wasn't that bad though. Probably doing all that work with tuna, it's way more effort than doing that.
So then, once you got to the surface, you didn't have to make another dive. You couldn't really, did you? Or to untangle. You were able to untangle the gun and the line all from the surface?
No. I needed to go dive down a couple times. But at that time, I already had my spear mask and the goggles and everything.
And were you taking the fish down with you as you were doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on my body. I was thinking, because I didn't take the video that I'm shooting the fish, so at least I had to take a video pulling the fish on my stringer by myself and then do on the walk by myself. So I was recording that.
So you filmed all that? You had the camera on you?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I have 2 GoPros. Well, lucky me, I have 2 GoPros and 2 masks, 2 snorkels, 2 everything.
You're prepared.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. That's an epic fish story. That is no joke. That's awesome. That's
cool. Sometimes people will be like, oh, you lost your fish once, so it's not your world record. I was like, oh, I don't know about it. But I did all my walk by myself, and then at the end, I got it back. And then I absolutely did all the work all by myself. So I think I deserve it.
So then what happened after that? Once you got the fish, what did you do with the fish? And tell me.
Well, so my husband's family has a seafood restaurant wedding venue. They don't do the regular restaurant style. It's just for the events. But because of that, his mom and all the family, they're familiar with the fish. So we all cook, fillet together, cook together. They had an egg in their body, so I made a botaga, aka karasumi in Japanese. It's like a cured fish raw. I made that too. And then we actually experimented eating the air bladder. Some Asian countries, they eat air bladders, so we cleaned that air bladder and then boil it a little bit to take some smells off, and then cut it, boil it again, and then eat it. It was really good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, you gotta like share the fish with family.
Yeah. And actually, I made a gyotaku. Yeah. I contacted the gyotaku artist guy. His name is Dwight. He's very well known in the gyotaku. And then he did the gyotaku for me. After that, after eating all the body, the head is left over, such a big fish, such a big head. That was my first attempt to make a taxidermy. The head mount, like skull mount. Yeah, I still have that in my house.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome. So yeah, it seems like you used the whole fish, you know.
Yeah, I think so. I have tail mount, I have a gyotaku, and the skull mount. We literally ate all the meat,
Awesome.
and then the guts, as much as we can utilize, we really did it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. So yeah, I feel like, you know, sometimes we see people catch fish and then they just like fillet it and they throw the collars back and there's like so much waste, you know. Like why do you think it's important to like utilize?
I know. I think that's the part that my dad taught me really well because he was a doctor. A lot of Japanese people, before they eat something, like any food, we say itadakimasu. Itadakimasu basically means thank you for dying for me. So I'm not gonna waste your life. I'm not gonna waste your, like actually their life. They're sacrificing their life so that we can live another day. So in terms of that, like I'm gonna utilize as much of your body as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like something that we get farther and farther away from is kind of like, you know, we pick up food from the store, you know, and you're so disconnected from this, you know, and like, you know, I feel like it's important to be connected in these things.
I think modern society, they try so hard to not make the animal protein look like animal protein, look like it's coming from something alive, because, you don't even see head anymore in a salmon fillet, and you don't even see, the hairs, residual hairs, or like skins on a chicken fillet anymore. So it looks so far away from how it used to look like when it's alive. So I don't say everybody has to go hunting or spearfishing, but like I think it is important people to know all these like animal protein used to live and then died for us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's our responsibility to not waste all this food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's like a big thing for me. I feel like people separate us from our food because if we actually knew what that thing went through, we probably wouldn't want to eat it.
Yeah.
So, I think it's one beauty of being connected to that process. While it might seem grotesque or barbaric, it's a part of life.
Yeah. Well, as long as we are human, we are supposed to eat meat, animal protein, and plant protein, and then other vegetables too. Like if somebody decide to not eat animal protein, that's fine. But like I'm not the one of the people. Like I want every nutrient from how it's supposed to. So, yeah, like as long as I still just, keep eating animal source, and I want to always be grateful for this life that sacrificed for me to live another day.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
What other ethics do you have as like a spearfisher? Like, there's any other like rules that you abide by to like?
Don't push, probably. I never push because I'm here in this country all by myself. Well, I got married, but all my side of the family, they're all in Japan. So if something happens, I don't get the chance to say goodbye. So I never push more than that I'm comfortable with. That's one thing. And then I don't try like any extreme weather anymore. That's another thing. And recently I started thinking is like probably I'm not gonna join any competitions. I used to, but I think to me spearfishing is really a lifestyle to get food from, not really just like shooting the fish to win. Like I'm shooting the fish to eat, but probably I'm gonna do less or maybe not spearfishing competitions anymore. That's my rule. Yeah.
I think that's very respectable.
Yeah.
You know, like it's where you border the line of like catching food for sustenance and like catching it for trophies.
Yeah. Well, like, I think world records, I still do it because until I get a world record fish, and then if it's too small or like if it's not something that I'm gonna eat, then I get to choose to not shoot those fish. But like, I don't have any bad opinion about people who do competition with spearfishing. They, like a lot of people, they actually ended up eating those fish. But the freshwater competition that I joined like 2 years ago, and the guy who was supposed to supposed to take care of the fish, like bring it to like alligator farm or like other farm place, the guy's supposed to deliver the fish to utilize something. But he ended up dumping it on the side of the street, and then people found out that, like, and then they investigated, and they found out each fish has a hole in it, like a spearfishing hole, and there was a spearfishing competition taking place in that lake, nearby lake, and then I kind of felt guilty. Like, I'm not responsible with that, but I believed these people who they worked with have a same passion or same opinion, like to really, crops are invasive species, so I don't feel bad eliminating them from where they're not supposed to and destroying their ecosystem. But like, I do feel bad when the death goes for nothing and then just end up being rotting on the side of the street, and I really felt guilty about it. So for the fish that I shoot, either it's invasive species or not, I want to be fully responsible with it.
Yeah. No, and I think that was a huge ordeal, and it, us as spearfishers like to claim, we're so sustainable.
Yeah.
And this is such a good practice, but that puts
but this
such
one
a terrible
person,
name, like,
I know, and he got felony.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, it's another thing. Spearfishing is not bad, but if one person does something really bad and everybody else outside the community think we are all bad. So, like, whatever that I do, I want it to be really responsible with it. So.
Yeah, so, I mean, in that same breath, like, again, we as Spearos claim we're so sustainable, but it's been proven elsewhere where we can go in and like wipe out a reef. It can only takes like one or two divers to come in and like for like a grouper of species that kind of stays in one habitat, come in there and wipe it out. So how do we as Spearas make sure that we are like keeping a good name to what we do? Like, what is important?
Follow the rules for sure. Fish and Game. They set the rule. They have their own researchers. Like, now I have this way of opinion because I did marine biology, microbiology, oceanography. They really, really spend a lot of effort and then their entire lives to really study the oceans here. And that's same for the researchers for game wardens. So really respect the rules that they set. Like, don't break it. And then even though you're not breaking rules, sometimes you see, there's only like 10-inch sheephead under the water. Then there's one 12-inch sheephead in those like only 10-inch sheephead ecosystem. Would you take it? Probably don't. But I think teaching those for newbies, people who doesn't really know the ecosystem yet and the balance yet, is very important so that we can keep, ecosystem sustainable.
Yeah, so kind of grooming new people in and teaching them kind of those things.
Yeah.
Any other things that you've like learned, like going to school, or and then especially like locally here that you've seen, like
the school?
No, like going to school and like learning with your like biology and oceanography and stuff. Like, any other things that are
any other things?
Yeah, anything that's like, I don't know, that you've seen out here. Like how do you feel about like the sheephead population here?
All these species.
Yeah.
Well, I think sheephead it's one species that represents the healthiness of ecosystem so accurately. Like, it's somewhere it's so fished out and you only see the little ones. And then if that ecosystem is healthy and balanced, and then you see a bunch of good sheepheads. that's another thing that I saw. And what did I say? And then maybe the sea urchin populations. If the ecosystem is unhealthy, you see like ginormous amount of sea urchins. But people don't really like eating those species. But they're actually really delicious, and in Japan they're like one of the most expensive seafood. And I do harvest them here, and they're like a same quality or even better because it's fresher. It just takes a lot of effort and time to clean them, but once you get hang of it, and they're like great eating seafood.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like there's a lot of underutilized species here that people just kind of label as not good, but
yeah, I mean like I think like anywhere in the world, they put stress on one specific species a lot. Like salmons. Like salmons used to be only eating in Alaska and in those cold places, but people in the Pacific, equators, they all access to salmons. I don't think it's a bad thing, but if people can eat, people knows the local water has really good, fish, then started eating the local fish, I think the stress on these little species are going to be lifted a little bit better, so that everything gets more sustainable.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it. I think
I think you said it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Like, I think eat locally is important.
Yeah.
Like, if you have good food around you, eat
Yeah.
that.
Yellowtail is not only the good fish to eat, and then sheephead is not only the good fish to eat, and then tuna is not only the good fish to eat. Calico is not only the good fish to eat. There is the rockfish here too, and I just got it recently. And there's sago, like opal eyes. They're not they are delicious fish to eat as long as you know how to eat. But cooking is another whole thing, I know a lot about cooking. I do enjoy cooking, so I know how to cook each species in the best way possible. But I think a lot of YouTube, there is a lot of resource and information on the YouTube how to cook those fish.
Yeah, when I first started getting into diving, I shot opal eye and made it for friends and never had one person say a negative thing about it.
Yeah.
But nowadays I feel like you say or shoot an opal eye and you get shamed from a lot of the
I
community.
know. Like opal eyes are very, expensive fish in Japan. But it's just a thing. Seasonally, fish taste different. That's one thing. And then if you treat fish wrong after you harvest them, it can taste really bad too. So, yeah. Like if you spearfish, if you do catch, if you harvest any animal from nature, you can't just do that and then call it. It's how to utilize them, how to cook them. It comes with you.
Yeah.
Like you can't avoid that and then just go hunting. Yeah.
Cool. Is there any advice that you'd give to people getting into the sport? Like if you have friends that are interested, what do you think are some important things to kind of groom people in?
To start slowly, for sure. Don't start from something that scares you too much, just little by little. And taking a class is definitely a way. And then start from snorkeling, seriously, to get to know the species rather than studying shooting, species. Get to know about fishing, get to know about species, be able to identify, and then get into spearfishing. Other thing is, I get a lot of questions from girls about guns, because loading gun is very hard. And then I use invalid loader that is not traditional style. So because Mitsuki, you use invalid loader, I'm gonna buy invalid loader. It doesn't work like that. I studied from the traditional, and then I started learning how to, tie the bands, and then how to rig the traditional gun first, because it's the simplest form possible, and how to load traditional gun. If you can't load a traditional gun, you can't load the invalid loader. It's way harder. And if you can't take care of traditional gun, and you don't really know how to take care of invalid loader either. So like, don't get into spearfishing from invalid loader, another thing, from traditional loader, and then another thing is it's same thing. It's about the gun. I hear a lot of things. I'm too weak to load. I can't load a gun because the band is too strong. And then I load the gun with the longer band. Now I can load the gun, but the shaft doesn't, fly as strong and fast as it's supposed to. So I'm gonna get a bigger gun, and it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like, it's not like bigger the gun, strong the shot is gonna be. Like either way, like if you feel you're not strong enough to load, you don't blame on the gun. Probably you should think that maybe you should go to gym and then just get physically strong first. Otherwise, gun's not gonna solve your problem. I don't know how to say it. Like equipment is not gonna solve your problem if your skills is not there yet.
Technique, I think.
So technique is there yet.
Technique to loading a gun.
Yeah, I think I can take a Seabass with 75-inch gun. Doesn't matter, the smallest gun here. I'm pretty sure I can take a White Seabass. So don't think, better the gear, expensive the gear, the better your dive is gonna be. Its skill comes first.
Yeah.
Yep.
The technique of just diving, getting down,
Yeah.
and approaching the fish,
Yeah.
I mean, is most of the battle. Like
Yeah.
if you can do that right, then the gun is not
Yeah.
the same. Yeah.
Because seriously, my gun, I can load, but I'm still a skinny woman, like small, skinny. I'm not as strong as, most of the men.
Mm-hmm.
So even though that I use invalid loader, it's not as strong as the gun that other guys use. So I needed to develop the technique to get the fish closer to me so that my gun would be strong enough to penetrate.
Yeah.
It's not even just a sea bass. For calico too, and more obviously probably the tuna. I have a tuna gun, but it's shorter than everybody else tuna gun, and then I'm even weaker than everybody else. So my tuna gun power would be probably like 50% compared to the big boys guns. So I cannot just like punch through and shoot from as far as possible. I have to it's not punch through. I have to dive down, quiet, and then trying to make myself look as small as possible and don't move until they get really, 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 really close to me so that my gun can take it down.
Okay.
So there is, there's a technique comes first before anything else.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you how exactly, like if it was a traditional banded gun, like what is your technique to load? Like do you load off the hip or like
I know some people use the hip, and I think that works too. But for me, most important thing when I'm loading a gun, either traditional or invalid loader, is like I'm already loading the gun when I'm pushing the gun to the chest.
Yeah.
A lot of newer people make a mistake. They think the loading starts from this position. It's not. Like I'm only loading it like half the way when I put it on the chest, and then doing another 50% at the end.
Yeah.
So you need the motion like from going there to there, and then push it with the chest too. So as long as you get a technique loading a gun, like you don't need much muscles.
Yeah.
Like as long as you're strong as me, then probably you're strong enough to load most of the guns.
Nice. I mean, I feel like we might have talked about this already, but like in a nutshell, like why do you dive? And like what does it add to your life?
Oh, great. Why do I dive?
Dive or spearfish, like, why are you in the water? What does it do for you?
Because spearfishing is different. Because spearfishing is different from any other hunting or any other sports. I don't really call spearfishing as a sport, but it's just like, it's so different from any other activities because the sense of hearing, sense of touch, sense of smell, taste, vision, what else? Gravity, and all these things that human needs to feel normal is not normal, you know? It's cold, and then the colors look different under the water than in air, and it's salty, it's not comfortable. And then on the land, the gravity works as a weight, but under the water, gravity works as a buoyancy. So normal person, or like if you're not used to it, all these things can trigger you to get panic, you know, very uncomfortable. But if you as you get good at it, and then you're now able to make a reasonable, responsible decision under these like really stressful situations, you're able to, you acquire the skill to be comfortable in a very stressful situation and then make decent decisions. But that is not only about spearfishing, and you can apply it in a real life too. Like society is stressful, and then that's the key, how you can be so relaxed in this stressful situation and make a reasonable decision to make your life more quality. And I really learned that through spearfishing. And then this is kind of like a reminder for myself. Like it's a practice for myself to be out there under the water, put myself into a very uncomfortable, stressful situation, get as relaxed as possible, and then be a responsible decision maker under the water. It's just like the feeling of challenge. But if I can do this, I can like handle anything else in my life too.
Beautiful. That was amazing.
Thank you.
So like, have you had to make any sacrifices to do this? Like
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Time?
Yeah.
Probably. It takes a lot of time. And then sometimes I dive too much. Sometimes I just can't stop diving. Like I need somebody to like, you know, call it. Like, Mitsuki, we gotta get out of the water. Like, ask my dive buddies. I'm always the one, you know, the last to get out of the water. So I take a lot of time. Sometimes I've been diving like 8 hours straight. And dove too much, and I got sick a little bit, like physically, and I got to take a break and then get back into the water. Now I know the balance, probably. Yeah. This year I'm gonna keep the balance. At a sacrifice. No, like I really gained a lot from spearfishing rather than sacrificing anything.
Yeah, you've already like accomplished a huge feat, like with that world record fish. So like,
Yeah.
What are your goals now?
Goals now is to not get high horse. Yeah, I think some people once started to catch, you know, good fish, and then they become a little too high horse. And then I try to, in Japan, we really value this feeling like you're a newbie forever. You gotta think you're a newbie forever. You gotta, you know, think you have something to learn from, you know, anything. For me, spearfishing. So never be too high horse, and then just appreciate everybody the way that they do. Like, don't think my way is a highway, because it's not really. Yeah, and then probably I want to be a good role model as a newbie. So I thought past couple of years there's a lot of women divers coming into the community. It's great. It's so great. But I think they have a wrong attitude towards the spearfishing. They get into spearfishing looking at all these, you know, Instagram, social media girls, big fish, and the sexy pictures, and then, oh, that's cool. Like they think that's a spearfishing. That's not really a spearfishing. So I want, you know, I want to be a good role model as a newbie that newer people can look at me, and then this is the right mindset to get into spearfishing. So if I say that, then I can't, like, you know, do stupid things to do spearfishing. So like, keep my original mindset, you know, be the most important thing, and then keep it same.
Yeah, that's so respectable. Yeah, that's awesome.
Because I know I'm just like not OG. Like I know like you're a better diver, everybody else is a better diver. And then like, you know, I was just like lucky enough to get a world record fish, calico and a white seabass. It's really like two biggest reef fish in California. And I didn't even dive that deep for these fish, to be honest. and I didn't even go anywhere like a deserted island. It's not SCI. It's not San Nicolas. It's there were so many other divers. I was just like one really lucky, and I don't want, like, I really don't want this to be a reason for me to be, oh, I'm the best.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You have the Calico world record too?
Yeah, I do.
Ha! Didn't know that.
It's like couple months after the White Seabass,
Oh,
I got
really?
the same spot.
Oh shit.
Yeah, same spot.
Awesome. Let me get those coordinates.
Thank you.
Let me get those coordinates off you.
Coordinates?
Yeah, let me know.
Where it is? I can give it to you,
Yeah.
but like it's not gonna happen this year for sure, because all the kelps are gone.
Okay.
Like those places I dive in LA, all the kelps are gone. Seriously, it looks so different. So I have to replan everything. But I think I have a couple idea where I'm gonna go for this season.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
There's always like role models and teachers. So is there anyone like specifically you like want to name, or just like people that were important to your like learning process, or people that you looked up to, or whether you've met them or not, or?
I have a lot of people
Yeah.
that I really look up to. Well, I think the most important person would be my husband, Matt. He doesn't really join any community or anything, but he is a really good diver and a really good teacher. I think like my dive is whole different level before and after he started to mentor me. And like I was trying to copy everything that he does as much as possible. Other than that, Ren taught me a lot. That he's one of these people that took me out a lot when I was a newbie. And Emotional took me a lot too. He works for Rife now. And other people, I look up on Tracy. Yeah, I like Tracy. I've never met her. I've never like face-to-face talked to her, but like, oh my god, I like Tracy. I want to be like her.
Yeah.
She's an absolute beast in the water.
I
It's
know.
crazy watching her dive.
I know. And then it's just if I have somebody that I want to be like, then I just say it's Tracy. And then I like Brooke. Brooke. In Santa Monica, I think. No, Malibu.
Brooke Bass?
Brooke Bass,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Brooke Bass. I talked to her on Instagrams, but I feel like she is like somebody who really supposed to be in and on the water. Her whole life is just like being in the water, and I really love that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all cool people. And then yeah, maybe tell us a little bit about your husband, right? So you obviously love the water because you married a diver. Like, how did you guys meet? And
It's on do you know David, the Respect Deck? I think that's his Instagram name.
oh yeah.
So Joy invited me to be on his boat, and then Matt was at the same time invited to be on his boat. So I saw Matt for the first time on his boat, and then we went to the local spot for the White Seabass. And at that time I was still really a newbie. I couldn't shoot anything, but I was like, still having a good time. Nobody else saw any sea bass that day, but this only guy, like this guy, Matt Wang, he came back with 3 white sea bass in like 2 hours, even though nobody else saw anything. So I really thought like, oh, this guy sees things that nobody else sees. So like I swam up to him at the next spot. Can I just follow you around to see what you do? And he looked really happy that I saw him up, and I asked him to teach me, or just like, can I learn from you?
Yeah.
And then he taught me everything. He was like so hyped to teach somebody, and I really appreciate that effort, and then I really like the personality. So like, we're just a really good dive buddy for a long time. And then we went to Hawaii for like dive trip with me and Joy and Matt. And then I had a couple friends in Hawaii, so I met up with them. It was great. But second day at the Hawaii, I got a COVID. And I couldn't really dive. I was kind of cooling off in the water, like while I was watching them. But I couldn't dive anymore. I came back to the United States. I was sick. He started to get sick from me too. And then he was living with his mom and dad, so couldn't really quarantine their house because he didn't want it to infect his mom and dad. So he came over So he came over to my apartment, and then we quarantined together. At that point, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I like him, and I kind of knew he likes me too. So it's not like a deal, but like we made this rule to kind of like let's pretend we are like together and then quarantine together, and if this a week or two living together it goes well, probably we really like compatible with each other. So let's try that way, and I guess it worked. And then since that day we living together. So we got better, but like for like a whole month he stayed in my house. And then, the school was COVID, so I didn't really need it to be in San Diego. So I moved in with him, and I started helping his restaurant. We dived together, I studied, and I graduated. I still, help his restaurant. We dived together. So, there was a lot of things through COVID, but to me, I was like, oh, thank you, COVID. It got me a husband. So.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. That's a
Yeah, I guess we are still quarantined together.
it was meant to be. You got
Yeah, I've never thought, like, I was so sad when the COVID started because I paid so much money as an international student to UC San Diego. And then as soon as I got into UC San Diego, I was so hyped. This is like one of the best biology university. And I get to experience a college student, American college student, social clubs, and everything was closed. And I was just studying in the house every day. And then, I'm starting to not get depressed because I was diving every day. That also allowed me to dive as much as I want to because everything else is so flexible.
Yeah.
But I think this one thing that I got out of COVID and that is positive is getting a husband. Thank
That's
you.
awesome. And so yeah, you guys tell me just like a little, you don't go too depth, but like you guys was it married or did he propose at Catalina? Or
We married, yes. Shall we talk about it? Yes.
Yeah.
So we decided to get married, but he does weddings every weekend. So many. We are sick to watch a normal wedding anymore. We don't want to.
Yeah.
And then, like, how can we get? It was also COVID. Like, COVID was still there. So my family in Japan, it was longer. Like they're doing a lockdown way longer. So I knew I couldn't get my family be over here. They're also medical field, so couldn't get my family over here, and like couldn't really do a big party in the closed area. So something that we can do outside. And I say outside, it has to be around the water. Are we gonna be around the water? Nah, that's not us. Like we gotta be in the water. And then his cousin and some of his family, they actually go dive. So it was good. Like I invited them, and I invited all of my diving buddies, because, like most of my friends are from diving communities, because I didn't make any friends in university in San Diego. So all the people that I knew, they can dive. Then one of my friends, Jackie, got the license certificate to be officiant for us, so that she can marry us under the water.
Yeah.
So I read this, what is that, like promise?
Yeah.
On the water, that's like while we were swimming. And he read his promise. We exchanged the ring, but the first kiss, we all dive down and we kiss under the water and then come up to the surface. Ooh. And instead of the flowers, we throw a fish food. Yeah, that was nuts. We throw fish food, and then all these caricos, like piranhas, jumping from the surface. And then when I put the camera under the water, there's so many caricos like surrounding us. It was beautiful. It was like perfect way to do a wedding in our way. That's perfect. The
That's
best way.
incredible. You guys have set the bar for divers of like.
I know.
How to do it. You set a high bar. That's incredible.
Yeah, that was beautiful. The best day of my life for sure. Before that, I've never thought of the idea of getting a wedding under the water, but turned out like that's a way to do.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Derek, you got any questions you want to ask?
Sounds like most of the spearfishing we've been talking about has been here in Southern California. Have you dove like anywhere else, like maybe Baja, or
I went to
have
Baja.
any plans to dive anywhere else?
I went to Baja a lot, and then we are planning to go back to Hawaii too. But yeah, I think Baja is one of my most favorite place. But I really want to go back to Japan and free dive there. But the regulation there is a lot different than here. So I'm probably be only allowed to do a pole spear, not a spear gun. So probably gonna practice pole spearing here before I go back to Japan. But still, you know, my family hospital is not quiet. Like still, there's a lot of COVID patients. So I'm waiting for them to get quiet a little bit. And then once we all have time to go hang out, and then I'm gonna go back to Japan and see my family, and then do a spearfishing together. But my sister is coming over here in March, so I'm gonna teach her how to spearfish. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, Hawaii, Baja's amazing. I know you'll go to Baja's. I had to go back as many times possible. Other place, I'm actually talking with this guy in Zanzibar, in Africa, and then we are planning to go there too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, let me know when you go do that. Let me know if you have an extra spot.
Yeah, we'll let you know. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Awesome. Do you have any advice? I mean, you kind of touched on it, but you know, like, this is, or anything to add to this. Like, spearfishing is a pretty male-dominated sport, you know, and I think with that, like, men can bring a lot of testosterone and whatnot, but.
Like people say male-dominant sports is so bad, but like it's actually really not. You know, the horseback riding in Japan is a lot male-dominant. It is actually, and I grew up in there, so I'm very comfortable, you know, competing with men. And then I don't feel any disadvantage through it because I can figure out the way I can do well in that community. But like I don't know, like I don't really like the sound of male dominant. It's like it sounds so negative.
Yeah.
But it really has to be because it's such a tough sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a tough sport. You need a muscle. You can't. There's no way around it. You know. So physically, girls also have to get tough, and then it's important to not complain because complain really has nothing to do with you to improve. So if you have time to complain about it, maybe like improve yourself to be compatible or to keep up with a community that is a lot more men, and then they do really respect people. Male dominant community is very obvious. They respect the girls that they put effort, but they don't respect the girls who only complains. So be the good member rather than the one that complains a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's one advice that I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think it sounds like you've had a lot of male mentors. So although it's
I don't have no female mentor. Like all these people who taught me all men, and then I'm good. Like I don't know, I'm not that good, but I'm okay. So like you know, I'm not getting enough practice or experience because I'm a girl. That is not really true. I think you know, getting mentors that are physically way stronger than you, is capable, it's actually really good for you because they can put you through with the edge of your capability really, and they can support you, and then they have a capability to really help you and support you. That's a good advantage being a woman in this community because you know you can trust them.
Okay.
Well, you trust the right person for sure, but
That's awesome.
yeah, because there's so many people that are better than you.
Yeah.
So you get to practice and then improve your skill like they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you faced any kind of like negativity or like
From men?
Yeah.
Well, if I say no, that would be a lie. So there is, before I get married, I got a lot of, you know, appointments that are like supposed to be going diving, but it didn't really turn out. Yeah. But like, you know, I think that's why it's really important to choose who to hang out with. And then before I get married, And then before I go dive with new guys, I really check their names on Google's, their social medias. I check so much. Like I don't just, I've been going different countries by myself. Like when I was 16, I was by myself in the foreign countries. So like I've got a lot of, not a dangerous situation, but situation that could go wrong. It's just same thing here. It's not saying special about spearfishing community. If you're going out, do extreme sports at a deserted place, just really research about the person that you're going with, and then make sure that he's a legit person, and then go out with him.
That's awesome. Yeah. And do your research. Sounds like you do it. Awesome.
I do. Yes.
Now you got a husband. You got less of those invites out, awkward invites to go dive.
Well, it's not really awkward. Also, these people that I still hang out with, I've been hanging out before I met my husband, so I know they're legit, and then I know they don't have any weird thoughts about me, so I'm very comfortable. But new people, I think that's a good thing. Getting world records, they take me a lot more serious. So before getting the world records, people didn't really take me serious. Maybe like 1 in 3 people take me serious about spearfishing to go spearfishing with. But now, like 3 out of 3 people, they know that I know what I'm doing, so they take me serious.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. Derek, you got anything else you want to ask? No.
No.
Is there anything that you want to say to the world that you haven't said or that we haven't talked about?
No, nothing really. Like I think that's the most important thing is to enjoy. Yeah. It's not about shooting fish. I think I posted about it recently. So like, I go dive a lot, but maybe 2 in 7 dive I shoot something, and not even something that big. Like most of the time I'm out in the water to just enjoy the water and to really just like, see the ecosystem, how they are changing, how they are behaving. That's the most important thing about spearfishing rather than just like shooting something really big. I think a lot of spearfishers, they don't think that was a good dive if they couldn't shoot a big fish. It's not really it. Just like spearfishing is a lifestyle. It's not a competition. It's not a competition on the social media. It's not competition with yourself. Like there's nothing to be sad about if you don't get any fish. It's always a happy thing to do.